Hi, welcome to ThinkTech. We are raising public awareness in technology, energy, diversity, and globalism. This show is Center Stage. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, proud managing director of Kuma Kahua Theater. We are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kuma Kahua Theater. Today, my guest is director David O'Donnell. We're going to get to him in just a moment. First, I want to tell you that if you are interested in joining us in our downtown studio audience, just email jay@thinktechhawaii.com. And if you are interested in checking out this show another time or looking at any of our archived shows, they are archived on our website, thinktechhawaii.com. And also you can find us on YouTube. Now, I'm going to get to my guest I'm very happy to have here. David O'Donnell is a theater director and associate professor in theater at Victoria University in New Zealand, and he is visiting Oahu to direct My Name is Gary Cooper, a play written by Victor Roger that will be performed at, you guessed it, Kuma Kahua Theater. Welcome, David.
Hi, Donna. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be kind of a strange interview for me because I see you every day.
Because you're in the show.
Because I'm in the show. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try not to let this conversation get too precious about, so what are we doing in rehearsal tomorrow night?
Yeah.
But I would have interviewed, even if I hadn't been in the show, I would have wanted to interview you anyway. Now
Yes.
that I am in the show and I have an opportunity to work with you, I love your style as a director. I think that, and I'm looking forward to talking about that during this conversation. Some more, I'd really like to get into that. But first, let's talk about the show itself. But would you say a little bit about the show, your perspective on it?
Yeah, sure. My Name is Gary Cooper is written by Victor Roger, who is a Samoan playwright from New Zealand. And Victor, he's considered to be one of New Zealand's leading playwrights. He's had a lot of success, won awards and so on, and just recently his play Black Faggot was performed at the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland, got 4-star reviews and has been very well received, as it was in New Zealand. So Victor, I think, is a playwright that I've been interested in for a long time. As well as directing, I write articles about New Zealand theatre, and so I've written quite a lot about the Pacific Island theatre tradition in New Zealand. I've written about Victor's work before, and in 2012, I edited a collection of Pacific plays from New Zealand called Urbanesia, and My Name is Gary Cooper was one of those plays. So I was already quite intimately associated with it as an editor, and now I'm very delighted to be directing it.
We're delighted to have you here directing it. And how did you come to, normally we don't import our directors.
Okay, well, I have to acknowledge here my colleague from Victoria University, Jim Davenport. Jim is a scenic designer who has worked at Kuma Kahua quite a bit in the past. He's from Hawaii, and Jim had the idea of suggesting to Harry Wong, the artistic director of Kuma Kahua, that it would be interesting to consider doing a Polynesian play from New Zealand. And I'm very aware that Kuma Kahua's mission is to serve the people of Hawaii and local playwrights. So when Jim and Harry contacted me last year and asked me to suggest a play, My Name is Gary Cooper was the first play that leapt to mind. A, because I think it's a fantastic play, but it also has a kind of a pan-Pacific view of its subject. It's set in Auckland, Samoa, and Los Angeles. So I thought, well, Hawaii is the place where Polynesia meets America, and that's kind of a big part of what the play's about. I mean, the play is kind of speaks back to Hollywood's exploitation of Pacific people and Pacific imagery, and the play is actually a response to one movie in particular, which was called Return to Paradise, that was shot at Lafanga Beach in Samoa in 1952, starring Gary Cooper. And this movie, over the time it was being shot, had an enormous impact on the infrastructure of Samoa and the Samoan people. So a lot of the people of Lafanga ended up being in the movie, and Gary Cooper, was considered to be this sort of, one of the most famous people that had visited Lafanga Beach. So subsequent to the movie being shot, a number of parents named their baby boys Gary Cooper in honor of the great Hollywood film star. So this film, Return to Paradise, has been written about quite a lot because, of course, it brings a whole lot of Western views to Samoan people, Samoan village life. It has this kind of exotic flavor. It views the Pacific as an exotic location, and Gary Cooper is this adventurer, drifter, who just kind of drifts in. He has a relationship with a woman on the island. She becomes pregnant. She dies in childbirth. They have a baby girl, and Gary Cooper's character is not around. Although at the end of the movie, he comes back and he decides to be a father to this girl. So it's kind of about fathers and children and absent fathers. And Victor Roger has very cunningly picked up on this plot and reinverted it. So what he does is, instead of it being Hollywood's view of Samoa and the Pacific, it becomes a Samoan man going to Hollywood. And in fact, I don't want to give too much away, because except to say that, as it says on the poster, it is a revenge tragedy. There's a bit of revenge going on here. So Victor Roger is strongly questioning the way in which Samoa and the Pacific have been viewed by Hollywood through film, through photography.
He is cunning, that Victor Roger. I mean, he's an incredible writer. When I read the play, before the season was decided on, I fell in love with his writing. I think it is Edward Albee-esque.
Yes.
What he does with the depth of these characters and their relationships to each other is palpable. When you are reading that script, there are times when I was reading the script, I became very uncomfortable, just as you should at that point in time. He has a way of forcing us to laugh at terrible things, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of black humor in it, and some of the scenes are very funny in a kind of dark way, and then it turns, you know, so that it becomes tragic or very sad as well. Yeah. But I think you'll agree that in rehearsals, what we're finding is these deep layers to the script that we just keep uncovering, and that's really exciting in rehearsal. And
it is, because there's always something new to discover in there. Yeah. And I think every one of the characters in this show, I think we love and hate every one of those characters at different points during the show.
Yeah, I think Victor has a good understanding of how human beings work and also how drama works, in that we don't want goodies and baddies. So there is one character in the play in particular who could be regarded as the villain of the piece, but I think that he is painted with, we see what his motivation is, where he's coming from, and that he's kind of, in a sense, he's a product of his culture. It's not that he's a bad person. He's just brought up in a particular culture where being sensitive to other cultures is just not part of it. Right. Particularly. Yeah. You know. And also a particular era of time, you know, in the 1950s, when I guess America's place in the world, you know, as a kind of as a major power was unparalleled. Or, you know, America had gained this sort of a massive cultural authority in the world, which was expressed through movies, which people were watching globally as well. So the power of the movies, the power of the camera, is a big part of what Victor is critiquing, questioning. Right.
In a way that you don't even realize you're learning as you're enjoying reading the script, and I'm assuming people will be enjoying watching the show. And I think that this is one of those shows that leaves you with so much more that a week later people will still be talking about it.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean,
at least
that's why I suggested it, because I mean it is political. It does look at the history of the Pacific. It does look at Hollywood's impact on smaller cultures. But it's also a very human story, so it works on a wider, more universal level as well. It's about families, it's about relationships, it's about the things that a lot of good drama is about. As you said, Edward Albee-esque kind of, you know, some of the characters are really bitchy to each other. Victor has a gift for writing that kind of dialogue. including the character that you play, Donna.
I love her.
Yeah.
I think it's a show about Connie.
Yeah, well, she becomes very important, and she's a very complex, multi-layered character as well, because she represents. I mean, she is a mother, but she's also, yeah. Well, again, I don't want to give too much away, but you know, I mean, I think she's also, you know, a heavy drinker, but she's also incredibly perceptive. Much more perceptive than her husband is, I think, about a lot of things.
Just imagine how brilliant she'd be if she didn't drink.
That's right.
I was thinking about that when I was reading the script.
Yeah.
She would be. Probably a good thing she drinks a little.
And there's a very interesting juxtaposition in the play between the scene set in Hollywood and the scene set in Samoa. So we have a cast of Samoan actors, and I have to acknowledge them, and I have to acknowledge Fata Sumanu Klutz, who is our cultural advisor and is also playing a role in the play, for bringing a breadth of knowledge about Fa'a Samoa to the rehearsals, and bringing a lot of knowledge that I don't have, and enriching, I guess, the process through an intercultural exchange of ideas, because I think that the Samoan scenes have a very different kind of flavour and sense than the scenes in LA.
Oh yeah, as well they should. And I think that is in the writing as well as the direction and the talent of the actors involved, that you feel that cultural shift.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it's just a crossfade within a scene, but I think that you've all done a wonderful job, even at this early stage, of giving it a different feel, and I can't wait to see what happens when the lights, you know, get put in there. I think that when we're talking about the depth of characters, you know, as managing director, I'm constantly looking for words to put together to convince people about the import of art so that they will give us money and keep us open.
Yes.
And there are lots of statistics for the good that art does students in school. There's not a lot as adults that we can actually point our finger at and quantify. But I think that this shows like this, show us the good and bad in people when you can both love and hate someone and you recognize your own humanity in that. I think that, you know, I don't know, maybe someone will give us support to the theater just by hearing this, but it helps us to embrace the dark side of ourselves, I believe.
Which is something that a lot of drama does. I mean, I think drama is there to help us make sense of the world, to relate to characters on stage, to understand more about ourselves through seeing other people's lives enacted. Yeah.
And then we have the benefit as actors and directors involved in the work and going that much deeper into the understanding of where does this come from, you know. Am I capable of that? Under these circumstances, would I be capable of that? Yes, probably. So then you can forgive so many more people.
Maybe understand some more. But, you know, I'm particularly interested as a director in doing plays that make people think. I do believe in entertainment, and I think that, as you've already said, the script is very entertaining. You know, it's quite riveting just to read on the page, and hopefully to see performed. So, but I'm interested in both entertaining people and challenging people and making people think about issues, and that's one reason why I've been so excited about doing this particular play.
That's a good place for us to go to a break, don't you think?
Yeah.
Take a little break here. Okay, we will be right back in about 40 seconds, so stay put.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday. Aloha.
Hi, we are back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. We are coming to you from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kuma Kahua Theater. I am talking with David O'Donnell, who is the director of My Name is Gary Cooper by Victor Roger, which will be opening at Kuma Kahua Theater on January 22nd and running through February 22nd. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back into your history a little bit and
Okay.
talk about your involvement in theater. Were you, did you see a lot of theater when you were growing up?
No, not really. No, I was fanatically into watching movies. I grew up in quite a small town in New Zealand, and there wasn't a lot of theatre around to see. So this is part of my relationship with this play as well, because the play is kind of about Hollywood in the movies, and that was another thing that I reacted to on a personal level. So, you know, I was very interested in movies, and then I became interested in acting in amateur theatre when I was a teenager, and I acted in quite a few plays, and then I applied for drama school. So I went to Toi Whakaari, which is the New Zealand Drama School in Wellington, and I trained to be an actor. And for several years, about 10 years, I worked as an actor, but of course it's very difficult earning a living as an actor in most places, including New Zealand. So increasingly I started teaching drama and directing. And eventually I sort of went through I didn't exactly wake up one day and think I'm kind of a director, not an actor anymore. But I haven't acted for quite a few years now on stage, but I do direct quite a lot. And I've been teaching at university for 20 years now. Alongside, a part of my university teaching involves directing student productions and also directing professional shows, normally about one a year or one every 2 years, because it's hard to fit it in with full-time teaching.
Sure. So, do you miss being on stage at all?
You know, you must know this because you're acting again now. Yeah, you do get that kind of itch of wanting to perform. But I do kind of feel like I have more to offer as a director. And I think as a director, I do kind of understand what it's like to be an actor, which I think is really important, because as an actor, you're completely vulnerable up there. And I think to have a director who's not aware of that, or not empathetic with what the actor's going through, is not a great thing. So as an actor, I've used a lot of different training methods and tried a lot of different approaches, and I tend to use quite an eclectic approach in rehearsals as a director. Essentially, I think one of my main jobs is there to help the actor to do the best possible performance that they can. So it's also a matter of kind of engaging with working out how actors work and what is useful to them. And often within one cast, there can be a variety of different approaches.
Yes, you do have you are the teacher that meets the student where they are. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I've worked with directors who have not acted before, and on rare occasion,
Yes.
they're very good.
Yeah.
And for those people, I'd have to say that maybe it is their distance that is part of their brilliance.
Yes. Yeah.
You work, and this is quite a luxury for us actors, as your directing style is nearly an acting coach. You're very, you work very intimately with each of these characters, and that's such a luxury for us to have. Did you know that?
Well, I didn't know that. But I think that, yeah, well, as I said, I think my job is to help the actors to do the best possible performance. And I mean, we have a kind of limited amount of time in rehearsal, but I do believe that the Stanislavskian system, which does get a lot of flack from a lot of theatre people where I come from, psychological realism, you know, a lot of people sort of want to throw up when they hear those words. But I have been working with the actors on breaking the script into beats and working out character motivations, because I think it is a very good starting point. Stanislavski said, if the actor doesn't know why they're coming onto the stage, they don't deserve to be there. And you can tell, the audience can tell if somebody walks on stage because it says, enter Connie, rather than, I have an objective, I have a reason, I am coming from somewhere to somewhere. So I think that, that Victor's play is a mix of stylized elements and realism. And it is very important that the audience actually can believe in these characters. So that's why I think that taking the psychological approach is useful. Having said that, I'm also very, very interested in choreography, image making, physical theatre. I love Japanese theatre. I'm very strongly influenced by the Japanese theatre where it's about suggesting the thing rather than actually really having the thing. So, and I think that Victor understands it because he's already written that into the script in a lot of places, because the script shifts between these 3 different time periods, and the spaces in between are almost what fascinates me the most. You know, the spaces in between Los Angeles, Samoa, and Auckland, the spaces in between the 1950s, the 1970s, and the 2000s. How we move between these spaces is something that we're choreographing in the play as we go. So I'm very interested in working these things together. I'm also really interested in creating a strong ensemble of actors where it's all about the group rather than the individual performer. So again, I think that the ensemble is the strongest thing about theatre, and it's kind of thrilling to watching a good ensemble in theatre being present in the live event. This is something that film and television can't really compete with. You know, it's that thing of living and breathing with the audience, and the ensemble playing with the audience. So I'm very interested in the French concept of le jeu, of the play, the game. So what's the game underlying each scene? So even though I'm interested in character motivations, I'm interested in charting the moment-by-moment changes that occur, the turning points in the scene, who's driving each beat, how does the status shift in the scene. I'm also interested in what is the game underlying the scene? What game are we playing here? And how does it vary through the show? This is something I've got from the kind of French tradition. So I love working these things together in rehearsal.
Yes, and you do a very good job of it, let me say. The big picture that you are looking at and dealing with, you're bringing through to us in the moment-by-moment character work that we are doing. And when I say it's a luxury to not have to worry about the rest, that's all. Because you're molding us in the minutiae of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, you have to do it. You have to get up there. That's why I ask you a lot of questions in rehearsal. I keep asking more and more questions because in the end, I might know all the answers, but I'm not up there doing it. You're up there doing it. So you have to know all the answers. You have to understand, and you have to be able to understand how your character develops throughout the play.
Yeah. And you force us to think. So make those decisions that it's so important for every actor to think about. I always, when I teach acting classes, I always start off by telling the story of one day when I was walking into Pioneer Plaza here, and there were 2 men sitting at the table right in front of the door talking, and as I was walking up the steps, I looked at them and I knew that one of them was a salesman and the other guy was getting a pitch, and he was not having any of it. And all I saw was, 2 men in white shirts and black pants and ties, sitting about, but I knew that about them without even hearing their voices. And in a theater as intimate as Kuma Kahua, you are breathing the same air with the audience, with the actors, and you know in a heartbeat if that actor isn't committed, doesn't even understand. And sometimes we know, we've seen shows where you think the actor doesn't really even understand their lines, let alone why they are saying them and where they were coming from before they stepped into the room.
To me, it's very important to be truthful in your acting, no matter what style you're performing in. So when you watch a kabuki actor, that it's totally stylized, but you believe that actor completely is committed and absolute to the truth of every action, every movement. So it doesn't matter what style of theatre it is, it must be truthful, or else the audience won't believe it, the audience won't engage with it.
Can you talk a little bit, would you mind talking a little bit about how we are breaking down those beats and the work that we are doing there?
Yeah, well, I think that I've come across many, many different interpretations of beats, and you and I have talked about this already. And I know that when I was an actor, I would have all these tiny, tiny beats because I would be thinking things are changing for me every few seconds, in relation to what's happening. But I think from the point of view of a director, you want slightly bigger chunks where you're looking at all the characters on stage and you're thinking about what is changing when does this change? When is there a significant change that changes something for all those characters in that beat? You know, some new information or something radically different happens, and that enables you to work. And often what you find is when you work in that way is like Connie is driving, and then suddenly it switches to Nick or Gary or somebody else. Suddenly somebody else is driving the action, and that enables you to vary the rhythm. I mean, this is a key thing about directing, if the rhythm gets monotonous or the same, well, the audience starts feeling sleepy, no matter how concentrated they are. So it's got to be alive and in the moment. Now, you can vary rhythm. I mean, if you're working choreographically, naturally you work with rhythm. But what do you do when you're working with big blocks of realistic text? You have to find those rhythms, and you have to find them from the intentions and the shifts and the way the characters are working.
So each time there's a shift, each time there's a new beat, very often our objectives in the moment change.
Yes.
And you're having us look at those,
yeah,
commit those to writing in our script in...
yeah, because if you don't write them down, you know, and I will ask actors, and I'm doing this, I just, you know, if I think they don't know what they're doing, I just say, what's your objective? And if the answer is like a blank stare, then I think we've got more work to do here. Yeah. I really do believe that we have. We've got more work to do there. If the actor, often the actor will come out with something that's very vague. So the way that I was taught to write objectives is be very, very specific. So I, Connie, am doing X to you, Nick, and using an active verb. Because the thing is that the word drama in ancient Greek means action, which seems pretty obvious because we're actors, our job is our art is to do actions. But people often get bogged down in dialogue. But that dialogue is just the top of the iceberg for the actions that lie underneath that. So using active verbs to define your objective is really crucial because it's what are you doing in this moment to the other actor or to the other character.
I haven't worked that way in a very long time, to actually think, take the time to write it out moment by moment. And I find that it is really helpful. Here's another reason why people should support theater. I find myself thinking differently during the day at times. What do I want?
Yeah.
What am I, why am, okay, I'm here, I'm interviewing you, David. What do I want? What do I want to convey? What do I want to have happen? And it's helpful in day-to-day life, you know? And it is so grounding as an actor, I feel. And
some actors hate it. I have to say, I have worked with actors where I've tried to work in this way and they just say, this is bullshit and I'm not going there. And so I have to find another way of working with them. Everybody in this cast seems to be very engaged with the way we're working, so we're carrying on working in this way. Yeah.
It's hard sometimes.
It is hard, but then again, it's work that has to be done.
Right.
You know, Brecht had said once, remember, this is not magic, but work, my friends. In other words, you have to work hard to create the magic. It's like when you see an acrobat in the circus flying through the air, and it's complete magic. But you know that there's been how many hours or years of training have enabled that acrobat to do that.
Yeah, we
so
like
in
to
the
think
end,
they were born that way.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be effortless. You know, it has to look effortless, but it's all the work that lies underneath it.
And you have a way of, I don't know if you do this intentionally, but you insist that you have a presumptive approach that, yes, you are going to do all of this. We're in rehearsal for a week, and you are taking those verbs and putting them into action when you're delivering the lines and remembering the blocking and doing this and that. And I like that. I think that there's something beautiful about being amazed at how far you can get in a fairly short amount of time, simply because you were pushed there in a supportive way.
Well, actors are kind of like teenagers. You have to keep them busy, you know, because I mean, if you sort of like learn your lines and learn your blocking, and then you get up and do it, then the result, as Peter Brook said, is deadly theatre. You know, so Yeah, I've worked with directors who will give you like a million things to think about while you're performing, so that you're always in the moment. So you can't ever be resting back on your laurels and coasting along, because if you're doing that, you're not working hard. You've got to work 100% for the audience, because it's not just that the audience are paying money to come and see you, it's that the audience are devoting 2 hours of their lives to sitting in your theatre. Now, if I go to the art gallery and I look at a painting and I don't like it or whatever, I can just move on and look at the next one. But in a theatre, it's a time-based art. You're making people commit their time, and time is very valuable to everybody these days, you know. So, you know, you're asking people to commit to the 2 hours traffic of the stage, so you've got a huge responsibility to those people. So if actors say to me, well, no, it's hard, you know, I say, it's got to be, it is hard because you owe it to those people. So for me, it's all about the audience and what they get from it.
Mm. We're going to take a break. I'm going to stop blowing sunshine up your skirt so much, but I did want to get those things out, that I'm enjoying the process, and I'm a teenager. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay put.
Aloha, welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii. My name is Josh Green. I'm the host of a program called Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm a physician. I work in the emergency department on the Big Island. I also serve in the state senate, which, please don't hold that against me, doesn't detract from my television program. We speak about all the big healthcare issues in the state. We get together on Tuesdays from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we try to talk about the most important issues in healthcare. This is a terrific venue for people to learn about healthcare. There are many programs on this station. We broadcast it later, not just on the internet, but also on OC16. Thanks for joining us. Please be informed healthcare consumers.
Hi, we're back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I am Donna Blanchard, your host and proud Managing Director of Kuma Kahua Theater, and I am here talking with a Professor of Theater and Director, David O'Donnell, who is directing My Name is Gary Cooper at Kuma Kahua Theater, which opens on January 22nd. Okay, got that all in. So if you weren't doing this work, if you weren't working in theater, what do you think you would do?
That's a really hard question. I've been working in theatre for so long that it's never occurred to me that I would do anything else.
The skill set, well, you could go in several different directions with the skill set, but I think that's awesome that you haven't even thought about it, haven't had to. And you work in several different, you also, I mean, you talked a little bit about you edited the script.
Yeah.
Have you written any plays?
Yes, I have written some plays, but I haven't really, that's something I sort of imagine that I'll do, you know, I'll get around to, is doing that seriously. I've written 2 plays that have been performed, but I wasn't very happy with them, and I just really, this is a skill I would like to work on. I've worked a lot as a dramaturg, working with playwrights on new scripts, and in fact, in the last 10 years or so, most of my work as a director outside of the university has been working with new scripts. I mean, this particular play is not a new play, it's already been performed, but most of the plays I've directed over the last 10 to 12 years have been new scripts, and I've also worked on a lot of workshops on new scripts. So I really enjoy coming to grips with how do you wrangle this text so that it really gets its full potential, so that it really so that the potential in the script is as fully realized as it can be.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I did improv work for a while. I was part of an improv production that ran for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the need to ever go back there. I love taking a script and diving in and figuring out why did he write that? Where can I go with that? And a really well-written script, there's just no limit to the depths you can plumb if you just keep going with it. But I tried playwriting myself. We have a playwriting workshop every summer at Kuma Kahua Theater, and I gave it a shot. That's not my bag. That's not my bag. I have all the respect in the world for a good playwright, and I just want to surround myself with those scripts and never have to worry about writing it myself. It's a very, very different perspective that is
I have to say it's a huge privilege for me to be at Kuma Kahua Theatre because I've read about Kuma Kahua. This is actually my first time in Hawaii, and I've read about Kuma Kahua for so many years as this nurturing ground for playwrights and new scripts. And there are so many playwrights like Victoria Newell and Tammy Baker and Vilsoni Hironiko and Dennis Carroll and Lee Cataluna and so on. These are very important names in the development of a playwriting tradition in the Pacific. And I know quite a lot of people that work in the area of Pacific literature, and it's been this big fight to get the establishment, the literary establishment, to recognize Pacific literature as an important part of world literature. I think it's even more of a fight with theatre because theatre's ephemeral, it's gone, and the perception of a lot of people is that a lot of the theatres that are doing theatre in the Pacific, new work by Pacific playwrights, is generally smaller theatres and in places that might be considered remote, you know, in terms of the globalised world that we live in. But I think that we have to keep fighting for the importance of this work, and that's why, to me, it's kind of a dream come true to be in Kuma Kahua Theatre, actually doing it. And I've seen 2 locally written plays since I've been here, and I've really enjoyed both of them. So I'm very impressed by the level of commitment in the local theatre community here.
Yeah, that's what brought me here. I was looking specifically for a theatre that practiced theatre of place, and we're committed to all the cultures on this island as well as the Pacific Rim. And there's a very large Samoan population.
And somebody told me there are 70,000 Samoan people in Honolulu or in Hawaii. Yeah, I'm hoping that a lot of those people might come and see this
We've
play.
got room for at least 2,000 during the run of the show.
Yeah.
They better start buying their tickets now, though, I'm just saying. So, can you expound a little bit more about the importance of the types of shows? Well, let me do this. What do you look for when you choose a show that you want to direct?
Okay, well, I like doing plays that are very engaging, entertaining, that people would actually want to go and see, but are also political and deal with big issues. And I'll just give you one example of a non-New Zealand play that I directed a few years ago, which I was very happy with the work we did on that play. It was a play called Albert Speer by David Edgar. It was originally performed at the National Theatre in London, and we did a production of it in Wellington in a small theatre with a cast of 17 actors. And that was a play about Albert Speer was Hitler's architect, and at the end of the war he survived the war, and he denied that he knew anything about the Nazi death camps. He was given 20 years in Spandau prison, but he sort of lived to a ripe old age. And some people say he's the worst of the Nazis because he never owned up to what he did. He sort of distanced himself from it. So this play was about this play is about some of the deepest things in human behavior, if you like how could somebody like that, who was a close friend of Hitler and one of his closest working colleagues, how could he say that he knew nothing about this greatest cataclysm that happened in the 20th century? And what David Edgar does brilliantly in that play is that he has, just at the end of the play when Speer is about to die, Hitler and all his generals appear to him in a dream, and they say, "Come on, Albert, admit it, you know, you've never told anybody, but you knew everything, you knew what was going on, you know." And he kind of makes this confession to the audience. And the wonderful thing about doing it in a small theatre as opposed to the big theatre in the National Theatre was it was so intimate, and when people were speaking, when this actor playing Albert Speer is speaking directly to the audience, you just cannot escape the implications of this massive event, this Holocaust that the Nazis imposed on the world in the 1930s and 40s, that it comes down to, you know, the deepest things in human behavior. I mean, did this guy really not believe he knew what was going on, or was he lying? But, you know, the situation that he was in, I mean, clearly, he says it in the play, if I didn't play along, I would have been dead, you know, and that's the same. So this could happen anywhere, you know, this kind of totalitarian system. So I'm going on at length about this play, but I'm saying that the point of it is that it really made the audiences think and debate, and we had forums after the play where we had Jewish academics, we had rabbis, we had the German ambassador there arguing and debating around all these issues around the play. So to me, theatre is a great place to examine the big issues of our time and place, and that's kind of what I would look for.
That's what you
plays.
look for. It's a very safe place to introduce material. We as an audience are safe, you know.
Yeah.
And you can experience through the actors so
Yes.
much. It's a way of, I think, absorbing information and introducing ideas in a way that invites empathy like no other.
Empathy is one of the biggest things about theatre.
Yeah.
Aristotle said that, you know, it's about, and catharsis, it's about engaging your emotions with somebody else in order to learn more about yourself and the society you live in and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely interested in entertainment. I'm very interested in popular theatre. I'm very interested in community theatre. I'm interested in performing theatre outside of theatres. I've done a lot of community theatre where actors go and interview people or make work about people that wouldn't normally come to the theatre. Done quite a lot of work with the elderly in that way, you know, dealing with people's life stories and putting them on stage and playing them back to themselves. So, yeah.
Interesting. We have about 4 minutes left here.
Sure.
That's, I could go on. Would like to just keep going, but let's talk, let's get back to the play.
Yeah.
My name is Gary Cooper, just a little bit. You talked about, so we actors are working with you every night. There's a couple of other people that I'd like for us to talk about, the designers involved as well. Jim Davenport, you
Well,
already talked about.
as I said at the beginning, Jim, if it wasn't for Jim Davenport, this project wouldn't be happening because it was him who organised it in the first place. So he and I have worked together for several months now on looking at how the design of the space and the concept, and Jim has come up with this quite radical and beautiful set, I think, which is completely abstract and refers to the fact that this is a play about film and its impact on the Pacific. So he has woven together, I don't want to say too much about it
No,
because
don't.
hopefully people will discover it for themselves, but he's woven together the material fabric of film itself and photography with the patterns and of Samoan culture to create something that represents the psyche of the main character, Gary Cooper. And so I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited about collaborating with the other designers. Lighting and sound are crucial in this play at times, the way Victor's written this play, because he understands how theatre works. The lighting and the sound are telling the story as much as the actors are. And the costumes are incredibly important as well because they distinguish between the eras. They show us the clash between the Pacific cultures and the Western cultures. And there's also this very strong emphasis on the body, because the body is a big part of what Hollywood uses to market its products about the Pacific. And Victor has reversed this focus. Instead of looking at brown bodies, we're looking at white bodies. And that's something that I've been talking to Corey Yamagata, the lighting designer, a lot about, how we can highlight this emphasis on the body so that we draw that theme out of it through lighting as much as through set. So as I talked a lot about working with actors, but I love working with designers, and I think that the way the whole, you know, we've got a very exciting design team here who are very committed, and I think that the design aspects of the play, when they start working with the actors, with the work of the actors and the audience's reaction, is where you start to get the magic.
Yeah, I'm so anxious to see all of the pieces come together, and there's something so very breathtaking about all of that coming together and not realizing how much the lighting plays a role in the show, and the set design is.
I mean, in some ways, this is quite an epic play. Like, you could see it in a big theatre, and so we're in this very intimate theatre. But I love the intimacy of Kuma Kahua. I love the fact that the actors will be close to the audience, and that. But we also, in the design, we have to conjure up all these worlds for the audience.
Like that too. We have to go. I'm sorry. but I'll see you in rehearsal tonight.
Thanks very much, Donna.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I have enjoyed the conversation. Now, to you, thank you for being here. I'd like to thank a few more people here. Our floor manager is Sachi Saloma. Thank you, Sachi. Zuri Bender, who is our production manager, is in my ear. Chrissy Goffigan, who handles our social media, and Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put all of this together. I will be off for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go away to the continent, but I look forward to seeing you again in January.